We are ready to go.
All right, let's call the meeting to order at 4:35. Sort of pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So open up the public comment. I don't see anybody who wants to comment publicly. I have no text from anybody who wants to publicly. I have to check that. Never know. Right, let's go to the school improvement plan.
Oh,
That-
me?
That is you?
Yeah. So, it's behind you. You probably have the slides on there. There were a few slides that I removed, simply because this was part of something that we were working on from the beginning, middle to the end of the year, so I did not share all the slides with you, just because a lot of it was what we were doing with teachers. So we started off, obviously being new to the school, I needed to understand what the current plan looked like, what the goals were, and what we said that we were going to do for our students this year. So we went through and spent some time, this I think happened around maybe February, looking back to see, or this may have been a little early, but looking at what we accomplished in each of the areas of the Portrait of a Learner, looking back of like what's still in progress, and then thinking about what we need revision on. The big question we were talking about is what are we doing and why are we doing it? We had a lot of goals. I think we had 22 separate goals compiled from these 5 different areas. And some of them, when looking at them, my big question was like, so what, why? What is the purpose behind this? And so we had some really great conversations where these became anchor charts around the room, and the teachers went around and sort of put their thoughts on, what was working well, what may need revision, what we really wanted for our students. So with that being said, that's been a work in progress, but we still had what were originally our goals. So we had 6 academic goals, which are listed here. We also spent some time going through looking at what we said, or what was said from last year that we were going to do this year, and this is sort of the slide. I don't know who was at the joint school board, but for each area of the Portrait of a Learner, we did go through one of our PD afternoons, and again on Post-it, so sticky notes. They went around to each area in the Portrait of a Learner and said sort of what we did that we thought we accomplished according to that the plan that we had in place. Simultaneously, we were looking at what parts of these plans make the most sense for our students, what's missing, is this really what we want to capture? But so for academics, for example, one piece, there was, so one of the, oh, that's fine, it says academics, one of the things that we noticed was that we had this goal of creating more outdoor learning opportunities, incorporating the natural environments. And so a lot of the things were like, I did a science lesson outside, and I did this outside, and we did art outside. But my question was, why? What was the purpose of that? And it really became that it wasn't just about the academics, but it also was about the mindsets. That in order to do that, we're also helping kids build the skills of resilience and executive functioning skills and cooperation and team building and all kinds of things like that. So that's just, those are some pieces that we learned while doing this. But in our academics, we picked out 2 goals that we felt like we did a lot with. So creating the outdoor learning opportunities, but again, we're shifting that a little bit for next year. And then our 5th academic goal was continuing to improve data-driven PLCs. So each week we meet with teachers, we look at data. AJ is one that comes with data and writing and scores and reading every week, and we pile through it and really kind of identify where the kids are strong, where they need support. And I think that does show in our scores, which are in my school board report, our end of the year scores. We also, using that data, we also decided that we did want to hire on a 0.5 interventionist for tier 2 instruction, so we did that. And then we certainly had an abundance of really great outdoor experiential learning opportunities for students this year. And again, it wasn't just about taking the academics outside, but it was really what building within the students when we are out there and really getting to narrow those down. So that's sort of where we were with academics. In mindsets, we had 5 separate goals. Ultimately, what I'll share with you, and I'm going to go through this kind of quick so as not to belabor it for you, but we sort of took these goals and really looked at like how can we make it into one more concise goal that builds in some of what we want, some of those habits, and kind of brings in some of what our outcomes were that we really wanted for our students. So these were our mindsets. For looking at where we're at, we just picked 3 and 4. One of the pieces that staff talked over and over about was just the need to continue to build student resilience and productive struggle. We see a lot of students who have a very difficult time pushing through things, continuing to challenge themselves, engaging in productive struggle without wanting to give up. I think that we do some of that through the Let Grow project, but I do think it needs to be brought into the classroom more and modeled for students, and that it is okay to have productive struggle. So we looked at some things that we did this year to help build that, as well as fostering student curiosity. So these are some, I'm not gonna read them all to you, but you know, the daily morning meetings in class circles, they talked a lot about, you know, cooperation and learning and this idea of resilience and productive struggle. Students had, starting in 4-5, they had student-led conferences where they really looked at their own data and were able to talk about their data and look at growth. For example, today we had a growth assembly on iReady where students saw some of the growth they made, and we had students that, an incredible amount of students meeting their growth. They knew what their growth goal target was, they took their tests, they met their growth goal, and to see their smiles on their face today was amazing. We had a lot of kids that really did such a great job, and they're buying into not just I'm taking this test, but why? What is the purpose of it? What do I need to do to get better? And then the feedback and goal setting after iReady, that became something in all classrooms this year where teachers had individual conversations, which you know, I'm not sure if it was a norm in the past, but it sounds like the students really bought into it and understood. And to me, the way the students grew from their first test to their second to their third, to me, I sense that they really understood the purpose of it, and that, you know, it's not just a test, but there's a reason we're doing it, and it is important to try your best and work your hardest. And it isn't always that you're proficient, it's that we want to see you growing too, so we recognize both. One of the pieces about curiosity and productive struggle, I think that we do a lot with our recess every day, which I absolutely love. I've said that from the start. We have 2 days a week of all school recess, where that is it. You wouldn't think that it's an area of, you know, where we're building productive struggle constantly, but they are. We don't help them solve their problems, they solve their own. I mean, we jump in when needed, but they really learn to work together as from the youngest grades to the oldest grades, and the older kids model for the younger kids, which is really great. We've also taken some trips this year where mindsets and those ideas of curiosity and productive struggle, and you know, all of our habits of learning are really woven into those trips. So we'll continue that next year. But again, we're going to combine some of these into one one overarching goal, which essential life skills. We started off the year with 2 goals. You know, and these were written before I came, so I was trying to make sense of them and see what we could do and what was already in place. These were the 2 that we had. So we looked at we revised the goal a little bit. So what are these meaningful opportunities that we can build the independence, decision making, and the skills needed? So we looked at what have we done this year that has helped build those essential life skills, not just these 2 with digital literacy and local businesses, but what are these essential life skills we need kids to have? And so, you know, we had, you know, they created the small businesses in the fall, which they're doing again. We had multiple enrichment programs where they were, the newspaper club, they were interviewing, they had to ask people questions, they had to formulate the questions, interview someone in a way that, you know, is helping them build those skills for later on in life. Same thing with the fall festival, they created their business, they, you know, sold their items, they have charging people, that was all, you know, a piece of an essential life skill. Grade 7 does a lot with financial literacy, talking about interest rate, taxes, budgeting. We've had a lot of practice with public speaking in all the grades. Every grade has worked on projects where they've gotten up and shared, and they've not just shared, but they've been taught how to share. How do we face an audience? How do we talk? What does it look like? Peter is laughing over there. What does public speaking actually look like? Because it's not just get up and share. There's more to that. And then getting into health class with the social media responsibility. We've had some natural consequence lessons and conversations that have happened because of some social media things that have happened this year. But again, really just, you know, our younger kids coming in, really being able to be independent with their snow clothes, their shoes, opening the snacks, their juice boxes, all of those things that there's a lot of students coming in not ready for those, and we want them to be ready. And then we have weekly DARE lessons with an emphasis on decision making. These are just, again, some things that we've done that tie to our, I want to call them older goals, but we are revising. Physical and mental wellness, we started off with 4 goals, and this is sort of where we were at. We did have a goal of a nutrition education program for grades K to 8. We put a pause on that this year just because coming in new, I wasn't sure what that looked like. I wanted to be sure that the curriculum made sense, that we had it, you know, set up the way that it was going to be successful. So we did put a pause on that, but we did continue with the weekly health classes in 6th through 8 and SEL classes. Those have been great. Our SEL teacher actually combined with our art teacher quite a few weeks to tie in those 2 modes together, which was wonderful. A lot of work around how we manage stress, how we cope, how we regulate, wellness techniques. We have continued to focus on restorative practices. The morning circles in every classroom happen every single day still. And those, especially in middle schooler time, where they build those connections and share every single day. Things for physical and mental wellness, we get outside a lot. We have recess for 20 minutes at least a day, and most grade levels go out and do take a walking break around school if they have a double block, which is, you know, nice. We have our kids walk across the street to the library, so we have a lot of physical opportunities for students. And then community engagement, we have 3 goals: sustainability, global citizenship, and sense of agency and local community. We did a little bit different with that this year and looked at like what can we do to show kids what can we do to impact our community and beyond. So we did tie in things with sustainability. We recreated a recycling program. We looked at the town of Southampton recycles cardboard and the other materials separately apparently. You do know or don't know that, but they pick them up separately. So we were the only, I guess, business or place in Southampton that wasn't following that. So our 8th graders created a presentation talking about what is corrugated cardboard. We now separate our corrugated cardboard so we're not getting charged the full amount for when it gets picked up, because corrugated cardboard is much heavier. So we talked about what does that look like? Well, we're not getting charged more. The town isn't getting charged more. We're putting it. Now we looked at a video of like how it gets recycled, and this is where the cardboard goes, but if you put it in with the regular recycling, this is what happens to it, to help kids understand sort of cause and effect. We've done a lot in the community with sending Valentine's cards. Did you all get Valentine's cards this year? We sent Valentine's card to every family in the community, or the students did. Student councils raised money for our neighbor's table. They had an awesome experience visiting Cornerstone Senior Center, and the seniors and our students asked when we'd be able to do that again. So I'd love to build in more opportunities for that, and even potentially some opportunities for places like our neighbor's table, or when I was in Lawrence and in Lowell, you know, we would go to some of those soup kitchens and volunteer doing some things in the community where I think some of our older kids would be able to understand that not everyone in our community and around is potentially as fortunate as some of us, and being able to support that and see that, I think would be helpful. And then just some other things. We had family pottery night, which was a huge hit. I was not able to make that night, unfortunately. Memorial Day celebration, we had a ton of families at. Drama performance was packed both nights. you know, we're just looking for ways to continue engaging in the community. There aren't many businesses in our community, but there are certainly lots of people and places in our community that we can continue to tap into and making sure families are part of everything we do. So that's sort of our journey. And then this is where we are at. Sorry, I will be quick. These are slides I didn't share with you. But so what we did is we really looked at what were all of our original goals, action steps, outcome strategies, and looking at sort of how can we combine one to have a bigger goal and then make clear action steps for how we're going to meet that goal rather than sort of a check-off list of like, yep, we got outside and taught art. Yes, we did this. But what do we really want for our kids and why? So these are not set in stone. These were ideas I shared with teachers. I took all of their work, compiled it together, everything that they did, and sort of we came up with these ideas, which we're going to continue working on in our after end of school peak days. We have a day that we're going to continue working on this so that we get set and ready to go to start the year fresh next year, knowing what our goals are and where we want to go with them. So each one has its own goal. I identified some of our previous action steps or outcomes or strategies. We did, you know, some work around what is a goal, what is a strategy, what is an action step and outcome, and really that's the work we're going to continue to do. And then it shows what are our current goals that we absorbed. So taking the 21 goals, bringing it down to 5, but really absorbing in some of those other goals that are really part of a bigger thing, not a standalone. If that makes sense. So we did one for mindsets. And again, you have these, so this piece being outside. So are we just going outside to say we're going outside to have academics in nature, or is there an intentional development of mindsets when we're out there? Some essential life skills things we really want to focus on. We know that executive functioning is a really big area we see that was not in our original plan. That was said over and over again by teachers that we need to make more of an emphasis on that. Oh, that's interesting. And then just continuing to really build those opportunities for students to be ready for the world beyond. Physical and mental wellness, absorbing certain goals of restorative practices, not that we're getting rid of them, but they're intertwined within this because it's not just about we do restorative practices, but we support student well-being and we include stress management, restorative practices, and different things that will help support our bigger goal. So that is sort of an overview of where we came from and where we're going. And again, this last part is not set in stone. This is still a work in progress that we are continuing to work on, both at the end of the school year and when we start the year fresh with this. But teachers felt strongly, I believe, and AJ, you can speak up, that everyone wanted to feel really connected to this plan and be able to articulate what we are doing and why and what our goals were. And it was challenging to do that with so many goals. So that's where this came from. Any questions?
Well, for me, no, but I think this is great. I really like the emphasis on real world applications as well as the productive struggle. It's new, but I think I know what you're trying to say, right? Like to overcome, resilient, be like, or hey, if something doesn't work out, keep going.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that's really important. And I think it's a really good detail here. And yeah, thank you for putting this together. Yeah. Sorry, I'll tell you have something else you were?
No, I
was just
yes.
looking at the
I didn't read
agenda
your minutes.
report.
I
Yeah.
didn't write
Okay.
Yeah, just
All right, let's do that. Yeah. Let's make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 7th, 2026 regular meeting.
All in favor? Thank you.
Okay. Let's go on to the reports, and therefore start yours.
Okay. check in with them, and some who I know staff here will remember very fondly. So exciting, we're finalizing hiring, you'll hear a little bit about that later in the meeting. We are planning ahead for our summer leadership retreat, which will be in late August. We're doing it a little bit later this year, so the 19th to 20th of August we'll be meeting to talk about some of this work, share the work that's happening across the SAU. We've heard a little bit of that at our joint board meeting, and planning for the upcoming year. I also want to just acknowledge the SST graduation, because every year we have students from within the districts who attend the Seco School of Technology who leave there with great industry certifications and apprenticeships and job opportunities in a variety of fields. So we're happy that students have pathway opportunities, and school is not a one-size-fits-all operation,